evening, everyone. Good evening, and thanks for availing yourselves. It's actually going to be a good session tonight, as we will be presenting a book by Dineo Molokoane. The book's name is Like an Eagle. I actually have my book somewhere. Give me a second. I'll fetch it. But just by show of hands, who has gotten, like, who has read the book before, and how far did you get with the book?
I've read the book, the whole book. Yeah.
Great. Anyone else that has read the book? I also read the book. I'm almost done with the book. I must say, and Doc knows, I'm a very good listener of books rather than reader of books. It takes me a bit of a long time to do the reading part, but I've gotten through much of the book. Tulani, have you read the book? I see you.
Yes, and I just signed the last part where we needed to sign as she's pushing us to sign taking an oath or declaration, and I signed it as well.
That's cool. That's really good.
I signed.
That's just to show that you imagine if I lied right now and said I'd read the book and I didn't notice the signing, then I was going to be lying. So at least I spoke the truth. Anyone else that signed the book? Doc, did you sign the book? Because you just said you'd read it, but we didn't hear that you signed it.
No, I didn't know that we're supposed to sign, but yeah, I read the book. Okay. I didn't know we were supposed to sign, but you know what? I'll sign it as well. In fact, I'm gonna ask Dineo to sign it for me.
There we go.
So I'm gonna ask her to sign.
It's a commitment. She wants us to take a commitment.
Okay. Yes. No, that's fine.
To be part of her dream and a vision. And
yes.
There we go. We'll buy the next 77 books.
Yes.
Anyone else that has read the book? Okay, I think it's a really good book. If you haven't gotten the book, you should get one. I think it's a really brilliant book. I told Doc when I started reading it as well. Like I said, I'm not a big reader. I like listening to books. I do read a lot of the time, but I just listen to more books than I read. And I must say, even after the first chapter, I couldn't let it go. I think in the first day, I did 2 chapters, and that for me is a lot. And I must say, it's a really, really interesting book. Then I think with that said, I want to introduce Dineo. So I'm going to read her bio for those that don't know who Dineo is. So Dineo Molokoane, she's the founder and CEO of Shedding Light. She's a serial entrepreneur, a prolific author and book publisher. Dineo is passionate about entrepreneurship, people development, community development, and publishing African transformation stories to help solve complex problems in Africa, such as poverty through storytelling. Her latest community published project is publishing the book Complexities of Poverty in South Africa by Dr. Snowy Khoza. This book was successfully published in all community libraries in the following 4 South African provinces: Gauteng, Northwest, Mpumalanga, and Limpopo. This is in our effort to fight the battle against poverty in South African communities. Dineo also runs a mentorship program for women in business, which helps build ethical, profitable, and sustainable businesses. The aim is to help entrepreneurs grow their businesses and participate in the mainstream economy. Her latest book, Like an Eagle, which we're just talking about, the ultimate blueprint for all achievements, is a book project that helps entrepreneurs unlock their business financial potential by becoming visionary, in their approach to business. I think, like I said, it's a really brilliant book. For those that haven't read it, you should get it. But I think I'm going to hand it over to Dineo, so that she can actually just present what the book is all about. I just would like you, Dineo, to just review it, and for just a 10-minute review of the book, what it's about. You can talk about the different key topics of the book and how the book is structured. So I'm going to hand over to you, Dineo. Dineo, can you hear me?
All right. Thank you so much, Malisela, and thank you to Lora for inviting me to come and share. Yes. Can you hear me from your side?
Yes, we can.
Good. All right. Yes. So I was just saying, thank you so much for inviting me to come and chat about my book as well. A big thanks to Lora and the entire team, with all who are watching and all. So basically, like an eagle, the ultimate blueprint for meaningful achievement. It is a book that I wrote with visionary entrepreneurs in mind, right? And it is a storybook. More than anything, it is a storybook. It is a book about my journey as an entrepreneur. I talk about some of the key lessons that I've learned along my journey. I talk about some of the mistakes that I have done, and I share some of the tools that have really worked with me when it comes to being an entrepreneur. And because it's a book that fundamentally talks about being visionary, and as we know that being a visionary, someone, whether it's a leader or an entrepreneur, you know, you get stuck in the future. So how do I pull you back? As much as I'm really saying, hey, here's the big picture, look ahead, but I'm also drawing you back through the goal mastery approach to say, come back and let us start here and work our way to being that visionary entrepreneur and realizing the vision itself. So the first important thing is that it is a storybook, my journey. And the second thing is that it is about calling entrepreneurs to be more visionary in their approach to business. And then the third one has to be the movement that I am starting. You know, when God talks to you about certain things, he's like, yeah, I want you to start a movement. And so I'm like, okay. So that's actually what happened. He says, do a movement, you know, and this is not something difficult or movement of visionary entrepreneurs. It's just a group of visionary entrepreneurs to come together, to commit to really solving complex issues in their communities, and just to, you know, realize the collective vision that they have for their communities through their businesses, and obviously the personal visions that they have. All right, so yeah, that's just the summary of what the book is about. And then I'm just going to touch on the structure of the book. So here's the book for those who don't have it. So the structure of the book is structured in set. The approach is more goals mastery approach. So it's set them, be them. What is them? The goals, set them, and then be them, and then reach them. Because this is something that has worked for me too. So you set the goals, you become the goal, and then you are able to reach them through certain principles and tools that I share in the book. So that is the structure, goals mastery approach to it. And yeah, that's fundamentally what the book is about and how it's structured.
All right. Actually, I must say, when I read the book as well, I like the structure of how one thing flowed into another. It's almost like a continuation of these stories that come in and show you how it's possible to build this business. I really like that. Just a question then from here. What inspired you to write this book? Like, why did you write this book?
Okay, so there are two main reasons why I wrote the book. Research shows that when people are not visionary, they end up being more depressed. And this is a study that one of the doctors has actually done recently as well in her own field. She discovered that when people are not visionary, they actually end up becoming more depressed. So I also struggled with depression for some time, which is very shocking. I'm sure people who are watching like, you depression? Oh yes. So there's a point in my journey as an entrepreneur where I struggled with depression because I was trying to figure this thing out, to say, but I'm pushing this, I'm trying to do this, I'm doing this, but where actually am I going? What actually is the bigger goal here? Because I think it's easy to get lost in everything that happens in business, and you end up losing focus on the business. So that inspired me to say, this is not a topic that is really talked about, especially in the entrepreneurship field. We always talk about depression probably for unemployed people or things like that, but let's talk about depression when it comes to people who are entrepreneurs. Even though things look like they're going well for them, there is other things that are not going well for them, and how do we assist them? So the solution was help them be more visionary, so that is the main reason why I wrote the book. But I think a second reason for that is sometimes I would find a lot of entrepreneurs always thinking about what is the next deal, what is the next this, they just haphazardly running their own businesses. And I found it a bit more selfish, and not other people centered, because it's like you're always looking for money and for this, and that's important for an entrepreneur. Honestly, I'm an entrepreneur myself. I also want more money, so that I can do other things that I would really love to do. But in doing that, how do you not lose the core and primary aim of why you're running the business, the heart of it, which always remains, we must be human-centric, we must be client-centric and not too selfish. Yes, there's a part where you serve yourself, but don't lose sight of serving others. So that whole thing of what, which business is happening, what business must I jump to, where's the money, and then you lose focus on the video. I'm like, I don't think this is how we should do it. So maybe let me just refocus and realign entrepreneurs to say, hey, remember, you started the business for a much bigger vision than just you, right? So maybe let's go back to that and look into how we can really make meaningful contribution to our communities.
I really like that. In fact, it reminds me of a book we actually did. I think last year sometime we were talking, I think it was 0 to 1 by Peter Thiel, if I'm not mistaken. But he talks about how a lot of entrepreneurs that start businesses, as soon as they lose the core vision of why they even started that business, they almost get to a point where they sell the business, where they go for the exit, as they would call it. And that talks to what you're saying, is that where the vision is not there, where you don't have a vision, you almost have nothing to live for within that business itself, and you want to jump onto something else, and you're not focused in that way. So I really like how you put it there, and that's really inspiring. What did you learn when writing this book?
Okay, so this was quite a big project. This is my third book. It's the third book that I wrote. So one of the key things that I struggled with when I wrote the book was I had a lot of relationship. Because I'm a Christian, I'm going to call it a text, right? A lot of relationship are text. And this is like covenant relationships, right? These are relationships such as relationship between me and my husband. This is the relationship between me and my mentors. These are people who are quite close to me. So I found myself having a struggle in relationship. And I already knew at that moment that it's because it's important when you're working towards your vision to have relationships around you. So the biggest lesson that I've learned, it emphasized the significance of relationships as the wealth that we really have as entrepreneurs, the relationship that we have. And that really was the biggest lesson for me, and thing that I took away from writing the book, to say, hey, you gotta pay attention to your relationships. You have to nurture them. This is true wealth.
That's good. It also reminds me again of, it's amazing how everything you say, it's almost there's a stamp of certainty because of some other book that was probably written some other time. Because I remember there was a statement I saw, for instance, and this talks about building with people, But in a way, so it was Steve Jobs that said, nothing has ever been built alone that is of significance. And as you're saying, you need these relationships, these covenant relationships that can lead you to a place that you would have never led yourself. I mean, it only takes one statement from your mentor for you to go in the right direction, whilst if it was you alone, for instance, you would have walked alone in a wrong direction that no one has ever no one would have actually warned you about. And it actually reminds me there's one thing when I first met my mentor, for instance, and he said one thing to me, is like, Malisela, don't make the same mistakes I made. That's why I'm here. I've made those mistakes for you. And I mean, those covenant relationships are like that, right? Where people that are able to talk into your life and that are able to give you perspective around what you need to do, or how you should do certain things, or how you should look at certain things. So I really like that as well. It's amazing. What surprised you the most about the book?
Interesting one. What surprised me about the book? Well, I think probably because I think what surprised me was the fact that it probably took longer than the other books that I wrote, right? So I've written the previous book in a much shorter period of time compared to this one. This one really took a lot from me. And what really surprised me again about the book is how we normally underestimate just the power of focusing on the vision. You know, vision is a topic that is mostly talked about. We talk about it all the time. But let's take, for instance, the COVID season. There are businesses that shut down during the COVID season, you know, because people probably were struggling. And I personally think one of the reasons is because they lost focus on the vision. But just the ability of those who really remain ferociously focused on the vision, and how they managed to actually just ride on the wave of COVID and make more than they've ever generated, revenues that they've ever generated. It was sort of like a surprising thing for me to see how powerful focusing on the vision is. You know, it's something that we know, but when it happens in such a challenging seasons like COVID, you wonder and say, my God, okay, so I need to really pay attention to vision. I thought vision is just like, but no, it's serious. You know, when it comes into practically doing this. I mean, let's take, for instance, the Batu store and Batu brand. You look at it, they actually opened more stores during COVID season, right? Because they were focusing on the vision of rolling out in Africa and so on. So it's that whole thing, you know, of just no matter what happens around you, look at the vision. There's a story that I like sharing as well. I think I shared it in the book. It's a story about, I was having a conversation with one of my business friends, Aaron Brink, and it was during the time when, you know, President Cyril Ramaphosa had just became a president, and there were a lot of challenges in the country. And he was having a conversation with a very old man. You know, this friend of mine, he was having a conversation with an old CEO whose offices are located next to theirs. And they were just talking about how do you lead under such challenging and turbulent seasons and times. And that old man actually said to Aaron Brink, he said, it's about remaining ferociously focused on the vision and never lose sight of it. So it goes back to this whole idea that sometimes we take it for granted how important it is just to remain focused on the vision. Very important.
Yes, that's true. Can you please maybe, I don't want to say elaborate on vision, but would you say that vision is detailed? Because as you said, sometimes people think vision is like this thing, oh, I have a vision on my wall and that's it. But would you say vision is detailed?
Vision is layered, is multi-layered, right? You get in my personal experience, you find that you get a big picture of what you want to do. I want to transform people's lives. I want to transform communities. That becomes your vision, right? But then as time goes on, it becomes refined. What does that translate to into something that is a bit more practical, right? because transforming people, what does it even mean when you say transforming people? But when you now break it down and say, okay, this is what it actually means. How am I going to achieve it, right? You now put elements to it, like living elements to it, like a vision board, where you're now saying, this is what I'm going to do, this is what I'm going to do. So that's now, you know, becoming more refined. And obviously, as you go down, you drill down and find other things that you can do now to realize these pieces of the puzzle. So it is, at first it's vague. As you go and work on it, it gets clarified and clarified. So it's the clarification of purpose, you know. Miles Monroe likes putting it that way. It's what really makes your purpose in life more clear. But the way that I've studied it, it's gradual. It's not, you just don't have it like that. For instance, even with me, it keeps on becoming more clarified, or more clear, because I started saying my vision was, I just want to transform people's lives, you know, that's all I wanted to do. But then as I go, I realized there's an element of community in my vision. So it's not only transforming people's lives, but it's doing that also to transform communities, to transform cities, and so, but it didn't happen overnight, you know. It's one day, as I work on it, as I work with mentors, it becomes more refined and clear.
I like that a lot. That's a good answer. What is the initial reaction to, of the readers for your book? And what did they think about the book when you went out?
Yes. So a lot of people, I think one of the things that surprised them is they didn't expect the level of vulnerability I put in the book. A lot of entrepreneurs, we like painting this picture that everything is going well for us. Meanwhile, we know that there's a lot of things. There's a number of times when you just polished that CV and decided, I think I gotta go back to corporate. You know, I mean, we've got the qualifications, we've got the experience. So I think just me allowing myself to be more vulnerable, to share my story, to share the good and the bad, and most importantly, the bad, you know, because so that people can understand that, you know, Dineo is a normal human being. Dineo goes through the same challenges that we go through. It's not a bad thing to be where I am. It's normal, it happens, but we overcome, right? So it was really more the level of vulnerability that came with it that surprised people. And the reception also was quite good because it's more story-based. A lot of, for instance, the first reaction that I got from my mentor who wrote the foreword for the book, she was like, oh my God, it's a story book. Entrepreneurs are going to love it. You know, it's not like hardcore entrepreneurial books. It's a story. I'm just sharing my story. So I think they didn't expect that because I've written quite different books before. And I probably, as an author, I'm also growing and allowing myself to be more vulnerable, and because I want to serve people deeply.
And look, it's what I said earlier on as well, to say how it's stacked in a way that it flows from one chapter to another, and it's just a continuation of each chapter. It is a story, actually, and I always say as well that it's very hard for me, myself especially, to read a book that is 10 step to what, and that's it. Like, you know, but the way you structured it as well was like you're telling a story within the book, and it kept me going and wanting to know more, because as you said, you were very vulnerable and sharing your experiences around exactly when you started and how you started. So I really like that and appreciate that as well about it. Now, this is obviously the first time I'm reading any of your books, and I must say it's really, really good. It's a good way to start the journey.
Yeah.
Did the book make you like entrepreneurship subjects more or less?
Okay, so based on what I shared with you initially, I think there's a paradox to it, right? There's the challenges that I went through when I wrote the book. They made me rethink writing more. You know, when you're working on a project like, but I didn't expect to go through so many challenges. What's happening? You know, so that made me rethink, to say, do I really want to write another book? And guess what? I'm writing my 4th book. But that's how I felt at the time. In terms of entrepreneurship, oh my God, it made me want to do more. It made me want to, it made me love community. Actually, it just ignited passion for community building more than anything. Because even when I worked on the project with Dr. Snowy's book, Complexities of Poverty in South Africa, let me just do this one. When I worked on publishing this book, I did a lot of going to communities, and we were publishing in community libraries. And when I saw the reaction, when I saw the response of what it did to people in communities, because the traditional way of publishing is when people go, for instance, your exclusive books and so on, but we are doing it differently, and we are publishing in communities. And that just inspired me to write my book, this one, Like an Eagle, and also just to work on community development. And I cannot even begin to explain what a meaningful thing it is to just work with communities and work with entrepreneurs in communities, and just help them to, to also partake and participate in developing communities. So it did inspire me to be more entrepreneurial with a heart.
I like that. I like that. You mentioned earlier on that it took you longer than the others that you wrote. How long did it take you?
So it took me 8 months. It took me 8 months to write this book. I started in October last year October, and then I wrapped it up this year in May. Compared to previous books, the first book I wrote, it actually took me literally 2 weeks to finish the manuscript. So, when you have, God has graced you to write a book in 2 weeks, when it takes 8 months, you're thinking, what's wrong? What's happening? But then I always, when I would engage with, I've got a community of authors, a Facebook community of authors. So I would always tell them that sometimes writing a book, it's like cooking boerewors. So probably the first book was like just preparing boerewors, and then with this one, it was oxtail. So it took a little bit longer, but it was because I'm more mature as an author and I'm more experienced, and I wanted to, do my best in delivering the content so that, people, it resonates with the people. Yeah, so 8 months. Yeah.
And it was, I can imagine, 8 months of challenging subjects that you have to drill into. What goes into, what went, and this is just a side question, but what went into the research, maybe the research around writing this book? Like, can you give us just a snippet of what you had to do the amount of research, or did it all come from things that you just knew and you just had to go back and reframe, okay, I remember that, or did you have to do more research?
Of course. So this is how I approach research. I'm always doing research, whether I'm engaging with a person, whether we're having lunch somewhere, it's research for me. Whether it's through the mentorship program that I run, it's research for me. As I engage with people, I hear what they're saying, I'm listening, and it's research. But over and above that, obviously, I had to go into deeper research, reading more books, just to get perspective of other authors, just to get perspective of other subject matter experts, to hear what they're saying on different topics. I had to engage with my mentors and say, for instance, I would ask with people who have served as CEOs for a long time, it's like, just give me 2 key lessons that have assisted you in leading the organization. And they would emphasize, for instance, decision making, as one of the key things. It was a common thing that they mentioned. Problem solving was a common thing that they mentioned. And of late, obviously, resilience has become also on top of the list because of the dynamics and the context of the world that we live in today, and just how dynamic the environment is, even the business environment. So it took really just engaging, like I say, every single day as I engage with people, whether you're an entrepreneur, whether you are a leader, and also just a lot of reading as well, and other research, from other materials and so on.
Okay, that's interesting. Okay, can you share your favorite quote in the book, and why is it your favorite quote?
It's It's actually not a quote. Hey, it's my dream. It's sort of like a couple of lines, but yeah, it's in on page 30. Can I read it? It's just
Yes.
okay. All right. So it's a dream. So when I talk about dream goals, there's a point where I talk about dream goals in the book, as a bridging gap between SMART goals and your vision. And I also share my dream to say, I have a dream that one day Africa will awaken to her true identity. A continent which was once known as the dark continent will be called the light continent. I have a dream that one day we will wake up in an Africa which is free from corruption and greed, where ethical leadership will be embraced as the new normal. I have a dream that one day out of Africa, bold visionary entrepreneurs will arise and form strategic partnerships and movements to fight complex battles against poverty, poor education, and youth unemployment. I have a dream that our children will one day live in an Africa conducive for them to thrive in. This is my African dream. Woo, and this is where we clap.
And I like how you said, when I read it as well, I was quite amazed and how you set up that whole your dream after after talking about Dr. Martin Luther King and his dream, and how that led you to also kind of like for yourself. And it's important, as you speaking about vision and for your life or for your business and everything, to have that dream about the business that you have, or else you get into a place where you stop reminding yourself of what is that dream. Because at the end of the day, especially like you're saying, as you're Christian, you know that those dreams and those promises are the ones that God will eventually show up and will come to pass, where we see those dreams. So I really liked how you actually put that in the book after speaking about Dr. Martin Luther King. I want to go a bit more specific in the book about the book itself. So you make reference of your father in the book. How important was he when you wrote this book itself?
Sure. So for those who don't know, I was very close with my dad. My dad passed on in 2020, and this is the first leader I saw, right? This is the first leader I grew up seeing. So he's the one who modeled leadership for me, and he played a significant role, because even when I wrote my first book, he was the salesman, right? So he would take my book everywhere, show it in the community, and say, hey, this is my daughter's book. You know how parents are. So he would do that. So my dad was that cheerleader that I had. He would inspire me to aim for bigger, to aim for greater things. And definitely he would have loved me to write this book. And that is why even the entire book, if you really think about it, because chapter 1 is like that vision for the book. That is why chapter 1 is about his story, right? It's about me talking about him, and the last conversation that we have. It's like the Last Supper, the Last Supper with Jesus. So it was the Last Supper with my dad, and we're having this conversation. So it is conversations like that, and how he modeled being an ethical and a visionary leader in the family context, that actually inspired me to say, I loved how he played it out, because he did it with such ease, such grace, and it was challenging. Hey, I mean, mind you, he had lost the wife, he had lost 2 children, our sister and our brother. So he was the only one left, and he still had to be a mother and a father and everything to us. But yet he carried it with such grace. And I was like, my God, how does he do it? So he really inspired me to also be a visionary leader. And that's what I talk a lot about as well in the book as well, especially in chapter 1.
Like, I think that you speaking about your father, that first story for me, I think set up the whole book. And I guess that's why I went into chapter 2 as well, because just the way you made him look. And now obviously you hadn't mentioned it, that he had lost, I think, your mom, and the sister and your brother. But even now even more actually, it shows how strong he had to be, not only for the family but for himself, to prosper in that vision that he had himself as well. So it's really, really amazing. You explained SMART goals at length in your discussion about goal setting theory. Based on your work with entrepreneurs, what do you think their dedication to setting and achieving goals or ambitious goals. So what do you think of their dedication and setting goals to achieve these ambitious goals?
Sure. Yeah, it's a challenge. So talking to entrepreneurs, I find that goal setting, goals mastery is a big challenge for one key reason. Entrepreneurs struggle with time, right? They have to do a lot of things, a number of things in their role of being an entrepreneur. And in most cases, it's either when they set the goals, they don't follow up on them and they don't follow through, or they don't even set the goals at all, right? Like I said, they're just thinking, oh my God, where are opportunities? Let me just go, but they never really have a goal that they work towards. So, and I believe this is one of the key reasons why I wrote the book, because I'm trying to say, but this is what is working as well. I mean, I engage with a lot of people, like I say, even people who are quite successful in business, and they share simple principles like this. I work on my goals, I've got a vision board, and you're thinking, my God, why are we not doing this? Why are we taking these things for granted? So it was just to bring the attention of the readers to these fundamental principles and keys and tools that can really assist us, and to try to probably simplify it a bit, because like I said, entrepreneurs struggle with time management, or should I say, like I heard one person said, time is fixed, so it's self-management that we must deal with, not necessarily. So probably it's that as well. So I do find that they struggle. Either they're able to set the goals and they're not able to follow through, or they don't set them at all. This is an area, certainly an area of improvement we need to look at as entrepreneurs.
Yes, and that's actually, you could almost say it's a life skill in that, right? Because a lot of the time, we as people want to do, we always have these ambitions, especially like, have you ever seen a person that has been motivated, a motivational speech, and they go out and like, yes, and they set all these goals, but actually not thinking of what, I think you also mentioned it in here, counting the cost at what it's going to cost you to do those goals, to reach those goals. And I'm definitely guilty of that, where I would set goals. I mean, I'm also trying to build a business, but I would set goals. I remember me and my partners set up goals this year. And if I think 1 out of the 4 goals that we've reached, and it's not to say that we couldn't reach the others. Look, the year's not done, and I believe we can still reach that. But in hindsight, I think to myself, did I actually do the work that was needed to get those goals achieved? And I can confidently say, no, I didn't. So it's almost counting the cost at what it took for you to say, yes, I'm going to sit down with these goals. I'm going to, as you said, reference SMART goals and actually tick them off one day at a time, instead of just rushing into it. And then eventually you just fall through the cracks and you even forget about them.
Can I say something there as well? I'm just thinking about this whole idea of calculating the cost. That's an important one. That's a very important one. The Bible talks about a person who builds, I can't remember where the scripture is, who builds, and then halfway through, they are not done. Probably they just build the foundation because they didn't calculate the cost. One day I had a conversation with God, and I said, but God, why do people struggle or fail, in business? And God was saying they don't calculate the cost. And ever since that time, let me tell you what I do. I even allow people who are interested in entrepreneurship, not yet entrepreneurs, not yet, to join the mentorship program so that they can calculate the cost and see how much does it take to do this thing, what's involved, what is the cost, right? And then they can decide after. So that's how important it is. You'd rather spend a year doing your research than go into business and 6 months down the line, you're out. You get what I'm saying? So that calculating the cost is a big thing. In anything, whether you're doing whatever type of project, just calculate the cost, sit down, look at what's involved, do your research, ask questions, and see what it really takes. Because I think a lot of entrepreneurs do not sit down and see what it takes. You lose time with family, you get divorced while being an entrepreneur, you get married, you get kids. It's a lot, guys, huh? You lose your dad along the way. You fall into depression. You know, you need how much time? You need, calculate the cost.
That's very profound, because it is very true that, and especially these days we live in such a fast-paced world that people almost don't have time to calculate the cost, and they just want to get into it and do it. And we can see, I mean, at work. So I'm a project manager, and as project management 101 is 80% of the work that has been done is planning, is calculating. Listen, are we going to be able to reach these goals? Are we going to be able to deliver this project in the time that we have? And yet, so many times we find ourselves almost done, and there's just things that come out of the woodworks, and it's just like, what happened? Because you never spent the time to actually calculate that cost that you would need to take to deliver whatever you need to deliver. And the same, I guess, will be in business. That's very profound.
That's so true.
You said, you mentioned your father, Tate Bongani Morale, and Mayor Snowy Koza in this book. What roles did they play in the book? And why is it important for entrepreneurs to surround themselves with successful people? Please share your thoughts on that.
Okay, so I'll talk about both of them, Dada Mohale and Mama Snowy. So Dada Mohale played a critical role in my life, because when I got into entrepreneurship, when I started out in entrepreneurship in 2015, it was still a time when corruption was very high in our country. So you get into a space like that, and all you see is corruption. You're trying to run away from this thing, because like I say, I'm a Christian. I don't want to do dodgy things. I don't want to do, corrupt dealings. And then when I was maneuvering my way in this path, I found him, or he found me. We found each other somewhere. And looking at him and how he was vocal about ethical leadership, I was like, man, this is the man. And like I say, we happened to get connected through attending events, entrepreneurial events. And once I found this connection, I built a relationship, and he actually wrote the foreword for my first book. So he played a critical role, in a sense that he actually showed me that it's possible to be in business and still be ethical. And that is very important, so there was a role model in that regard. Talking about Mama Snowy as well, met her, while in business. And one of the things that stood out, of course, ethical leadership as well, the battles she has fought against corruption in the organization she was leading at the time, and also her generosity. My God, that woman is so generous. And I'm not necessarily talking financial, she's generous, like literally generous. Yeah, she's very generous. I don't want to say a lot, because I might get in trouble for saying that, but I'm just saying she's really generous. But another thing which is quite different, which she has, because we share the same belief system and value system in terms of the Christian-based values and beliefs, she's a good steward of what God has entrusted in you when it comes to business. So she not only mentors you, because she mentored me for quite an extensive time. And one of the things that I discovered from experience is she not only mentor you, like, the technical things you need to do that. It's as if it's a spirit, has spirit, entrepreneurial spirit, that gets transmuted and transferred to you. And there's a way that she trusts and believes God to actually allows this thing that he's put in you, that he wants to do, to come out. Man, it's something mind-blowing. We can only give God the glory for it. She also wonders how she does it, because it's only God, honestly. It's amazing. And it's very important. Like, it goes back to, just to close off, it goes back to the mastermind principle that I talk about in the book, where I talk about, it's about be that thing. The only way to be your goals, or to be the vision, is to surround yourself with people who have done that, right? That's the fastest way, in my own experience. If you want to grow, if you want to achieve any goal, if you want to realize your dream, your vision, The first step, actually God taught it to me like, the first step, get around the right people. I'm telling you, you catch it in the spirit.
That's good. That's good. You almost like Elisha, as he got the double portion. So I'm guessing you got the
Yeah.
double portion as well.
Absolutely.
I want to open it up. I want to open questions up to the floor for anyone that has questions, that has even if you haven't read the book, and just from the conversation that we've been having, just if there's any questions that you want to raise, the floor is open. Tulani, I see your hand is up. You can go ahead.
Yes. Dineo, what a great book you've written. My question is regarding that witchcraft that happened in your journey in corporate. What if that guy were to read the book and he would probably know he's the one who broke the glass through staring at it? And what
Tulani, you
happened
want to
to
switch
him?
on your video? Sorry.
Oh, sorry. What happened to him?
Okay. What do you mean what happened to him? You mean after the incident?
Yes. Is it still
Okay.
there in corporate or?
Well, when I left corporate, I think he left a year before me or so. So he probably left, I think, 2 years before to a different division in the company. So we never got to meet. But what if he reads the book? Really, I honestly don't care. It's my story, right? I'm just narrating my story. Whether he reads it, whether he doesn't read it, it's my story. I'm only telling my story.
Yeah, it was.
But we did. Yeah, but what I'm going to say is, what I like is, even after that incident, we did, come together. We never really talked about it, but we did come together. Everything was okay. We're in good terms. And then it just happened that life led us separate ways.
Okay. It's a lesson that you mustn't eat things, especially from the people that are competing with you in workplace.
Yeah, and not only in the workplace, in entrepreneurship,
Yes.
we had a conversation in one entrepreneurial space on Twitter, and they were actually talking about how entrepreneurship, how witchcraft is real in Africa. Well, probably everywhere, to be honest, and especially when it comes to entrepreneurship as well. So these things are happening, and we need to be quite careful. Unfortunately, they are happening.
Dineo, do you maybe just want to talk about the incident, just for those that haven't read the book yet? What happened and where did, obviously context around what happened? I think it'll be good.
Okay, so I'm actually sharing a story about what happened when I was still in corporate. And the story is about, there was an Indian guy I was working with. We were both students. We were coming into corporate. And the other day, I'm just cutting the long story short. So there was a competitive spirit, because, sometimes when God has really graced you with favor, people just like you for no reason. And it was that situation with me. So I think when he joined the team, he found that, and it became very difficult for him to accept that probably there was some form of favor that was upon my life. So the other day we attended a course, a business analysis course somewhere, and he offered me food. And mind you, we were being given food at the training, right? I mean, they were offering food, lunch, and all of that. But for some odd reason, he brought a lunch box, and he gave me the chicken that he said was from the brother, So he insisted, because I didn't have a car at the time, so he offered me a lift. So he picked me up at the flat at the apartment where I used to stay, and then we went together to the course venue. So that day he offered me, like I said, lunchbox with chicken. I think I remember chicken. And then when he dropped me off, he said, please take it, But I said, no, we've eaten, I'm fine. Like, why should I take it? No, take it back. No, my brother is going to be angry with me. He prepared this and this for me, and so on. So just to make sure that we end this thing, I said, okay, fine, I took it. And then I had it for supper that day. The following morning, there was a lump in my tummy. And every single day I would go to work after that incident, when I looked at him, I would feel an overpowering spirit. Like I would just feel like something is pressing me down. And then I would go to the ladies and pray. And after, when I come back, I would come back feeling much better. But then it happened that one day I went to church back at home. I had gone home for the weekend. Then you know what happens in church, Christian church, they pray for us. They say, check the lump. Anybody who had the lump in the body, I check my tummy, the lump is gone, like literally gone, nothing. Come back on Monday, this guy couldn't look at me. This guy could not look at me. Yeah, so that's what happened. Basically, God prevails,
Amen.
So
Amen.
yeah, these
That's
things
really
they
powerful.
do happen. Yeah.
Sure. Tilani, I see you also had more to say, unless you're done.
Well, let me not spoil it for those who haven't read, but that story, the whole of it, it's really interesting, Kenra. It's really interesting as to that spirit that grabs you and like puts you down. And you also mentioned the glass breaking. You had to pray a couple of times to get rid of that spirit, of which certain people don't know that those things do work. So yeah, that chapter really grabbed me, and it was quite interesting. So you survived. You could have died. What if it was poison? You ate. You should have taken that and gave it to the doctor, or So it's a lesson that when it comes to taking food, you need to be careful. Some people may look as friends, but not really. They just out there to kill you.
That's true. That's so true.
Yeah. Other than that, it's a great book. I see you have quite a lot of influence from your dad, a good, solid leadership, and it was a good book.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. All the glory be unto God.
Thank
Amen. Angie, I see your hand is up. Do you want to switch on your camera and ask?
Hello. Yeah, good evening, all the way from Botswana. We couldn't get the book right on time, but it'll come. It will come. And now I'm even eager to read it more, looking forward to it. No, I wanted to appreciate, what I just heard. It is just so important to share the struggles. A lot of the struggles that you were commenting now about losing the vision, the depression, it's something that I particularly have experienced the last couple of months. So yeah, I think I'll just talk to you offline and see your program, etc. And I cannot really wait to read that book, to be honest. But it's so important. It's some topics that people do not talk, as you say. We see all the social media, we see very successful entrepreneurs, but we don't see everything that is behind that, right? So I just want to applaud, commend, and for me today, I felt like God also was perhaps speaking to me. I feel like it was like a divine appointment. Wow. What you said about having the vision, and also something that I feel that part of the reason why I feel like depressed or a bit lost. You said something very key about community. The people that you surround yourself with. I think yes. I have drifted away from that myself, like not to get a lot of supportive mentor. So for me, that was like a light bulb as well. So no, thank you so much. I just wanted to commend you and thank you for sharing. And it takes courage also to be vulnerable and to speak about struggles, because I think most of us, we just want to pretend everything is fine, and we want to put that mask and that face to say, no, entrepreneurship is good, it's cool, everything is good in entrepreneurship, but a lot goes into it. So thank you so much, Dineo. I'll talk to you somewhere else. Thank you.
Thank you, Angie.
Thanks for that, Angie. I just want to talk quickly about what you're just saying now around just the surrounding with your people. It's amazing how we know they've always taught us at church that when the enemy wants to attack you, he isolates you. And it's very important in that where you have, as you're saying, mentors that will keep you from being out of isolation so that you can continue to grow. It's really important what you're saying now. And I like the fact that you mentioned that. And Angie, thanks for actually also being vulnerable as well, enough to say that that's what you're going through, because this is something, as you said, that not a lot of people talk about. And we need more forums, I guess, in that sense, that for people to actually open up and say, this is what I go through, so that you can get the help. As I mentioned earlier on, if someone has gone through it, it means they've gone through it. It means you can also get through it. So I like what you're saying now, Angie, and thanks for actually being vulnerable around that.
Can I share something as well on that? One of the main reasons why entrepreneurs isolate themselves is there's something, for instance, in my case, just the first month I became an entrepreneur. I'm talking about the first month, right? I'm out of work. This is me as an entrepreneur. I met somebody, and this is somebody who is key, he's got key positions in, some spaces. So this person actually wanted to use me to open a business so that they can do their own things, dodgy things. This was serious, but I thank God, again, it's that value system which kept me from falling in that trap. And now what it does is it creates a wound, because this is somebody who was seen as credible, trusted, but then when they try to do these things, it's a betrayal, and it causes trust issues, mistrust issues. Relationships are all about trust. Once a key person does that to you, it causes wounds, emotional wounds. You stop trusting people. You isolate yourself, right? And then you fall in depression. You can't do a lot in business because you're scared of people. Even clients, they come, but you keep losing them. Why? Because you don't trust them. They feel it. We are spiritual beings. They sense it. And so if somebody key, it can be your parent, it can be a loved one, anybody, if they betray trust, we underestimate how powerful it is and what impact it can make in your business. Like it snowballs to your business and it negatively affects your business. So I'm highlighting the issue of healing to entrepreneurs as well, because that's one of the key, again, something that we don't talk about. It's as if entrepreneurs are immune to problems and to, so we have to talk about healing. How have you healed? Because that's one of, especially relational healing, right? In the area of your relationship, who has wounded you emotionally? What did they do? How has it affected your relationship with your clients, your relationship with your suppliers, your relationship with people? Because that creates a limitation and a boundary to it, right? So I'm just really just throwing it out there for the audience to think about it, and just to say, if you are struggling in the area of relationships, who wounded you?
Angie, I saw that you were quite, it hit home in a way. It is too close to it as home.
That I feel, yeah, she's getting very deep into the roots, I think. Yeah, so yeah, no, thank you. I cannot even express it. Thank you.
Doc, I saw your hand was up.
Yeah, my hand was up. I had to put it back down again because I see Dineo was getting into the spirit, so I didn't want to detour and ask something irrelevant.
We don't walk alone.
So I was like this. I'm like, okay, I'm moving backwards because I think this is important. Yeah, and I think part of and I love what you say in the book about the people that you surround yourself with, because I also see it quite a lot with entrepreneurs who struggle with with mental health, but they don't talk about their struggles. There's a chapter that you spoke about. I think you talk about patience.
Yes.
And you say that you know what are the two great lessons you have learned in life, and you are asking your dad, and I think and it spoke about patience, and I think for me the question that I have is, in a world where things are moving ever so fast, everything is instant, instant coffee, instant fast foods, everything is instant. What has been your experience when it comes to patience? And have you struggled with it? Because there are instances where you feel like you're stuck, and things are not moving, and you see other people, they're moving out there and you are stuck, and it's as if, so I want to sort of, are you able to say, here I'm stuck, or here what's happening to me is the process, I just have to be patient? Are you able to, how do you deal with the difference between the two?
Yes. One of the key things that I like doing is distinguishing between what I can control and what I can't control. And I've learned to be quite honest with, this is what I can do, this is what I can control. And if I cannot, it's either I look at if this can be controlled by somebody else or if it's beyond my control. But another thing that has helped me, going back to relationships, I love surrounding myself with old people. I mean, you talk to Tata Mohali, talk Papa. Papa was 88 years. You talk Mama. These are old people. And when you are in the company of old people who've got wisdom, they actually tell you the journey is so long, So sometimes you think, I'm getting there, they're like that. Even for them, that's the humility they have. They'll tell you, man, the journey is still so long. That thing will humble you. And then you will realize that, okay, it takes long. It takes long. There's a scripture in the Bible where God says to Elijah, eat, for the journey is long. So the journey is long. I've learned to accept that some of the things are beyond my control, and some of the things are because my character is still being shaped, and I must just allow the process to take its course. And some of the things I can control, and I do control them if I can.
Awesome. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's really good. There's a lot of things that you're saying now that are just going inside of my head. But I remember we read a book, I think, was it 2 months back, Dr. Rosh, where we read a book about Elizabeth Holmes, Theranos, the founder of Theranos, and it was called, I think the book is called, is it True Blood or not True Blood or Bad Blood or something like that. But in there, what you're talking about is, it shows how in the book that we had read, how she failed. And she failed dismally. Like, she went to jail now, or she's being sentenced to something like 25 years in jail just because she did not have that patience to actually do what she needed to do in the time that it needed to be done. Actually not lying to herself. I mean, we were going on about in the book to say how she believed her own lie. She was so pathological. She was a pathological liar. But it's because she wasn't true to, obviously, the vision, and she wasn't true to how to the patience that she needed to carry out this brilliant. It probably would have been a very brilliant company, but yet she didn't have the patience and to go on a journey, as you're saying. It's a long journey. And she thought, no, everything has to be done by the time I am 32 or whatever it is that she thought. And you actually, yeah, sorry, yeah.
Going back to this patience aspect of it, as Rochelle was sharing, what I'm sharing in the book there, I said I asked two key people, I've asked two old men, my father being one of them, to say what is the greatest lessons they've learned in life, and hence the patience one. And I remember asking my father, saying, Papa, do you mean persistence? And he went back and said, no, Wanaka, I'm talking about patience. And if you know the story of my dad had me, when I was born, he was 55, 55 years is old. My mom was 45 years. And there are certain things my dad, because I've seen part of it, after the 45, 55 years, the latter part, I saw some of the things that he had to be patient. Let me just make an example. We probably all have that family member who's just troublesome, and you gotta be, they keep doing this thing, but you're like, okay, let's give him another chance. And I would see how sometimes we would probably almost give up and say, this person. My dad will, reprimand and do the next minute laughs with this person. Oh, no, let's put it all behind us, Banage. It's behind us now. Let's move on. The person does another thing. No, Banage, it will talk to the person. And I was like, such patience, my God. I'm like, so I've seen that part. And the second person who said it, who shared the same lesson was a farmer, Dr. Roche knows that we had a session today. I had a session today, with the entrepreneurs, and most of them are farmers. Believe you me, in farming, patience is everything. Patience is everything. So this is not talked about a lot in entrepreneurship, and probably that's why people give up so easily. But we got to be patient.
Yes, that's very good. Shama, I saw you wrote something in the chat box. You want to maybe share with your video on?
Can I not have my video on, please? I'm such a mess. I'm just like literally falling apart because this is, Angie and I didn't get the book in time because we are on the other side of the border. So hopefully we'll get it in a few weeks or so. And I really, really would love to really read it. And me and our book club, I'm all for books that feel like a warm hug. Anything that's complex and complicated, nope. But this feels like such a God moment. And I love how we live in a world that entrepreneurs, especially, people don't really acknowledge God like that in their journey, so it's so healing, to hear us, Dineo, just come out and acknowledge that she is where she is because of God. And just also talking about the truth, the real truth that entrepreneurship is really hard and you need to be patient. I think the world teaches us that like microwave, just register your business, open the doors, and people will come running to your business. They will be like literally tripping to buy from you, but it's actually not like that. I feel like the first few years for building the resilience, the strength, and I've actually made notes. I have a lot of notes here. So, wow, I don't know if we rate the book right now, but I'm ready. Thank you so much.
You should be getting it so soon.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Shama.
Matala on Facebook is saying very interesting, and with the face that the thinking face, vision board, it's noted, and calculating costs. So I think a lot of people are getting a lot of gems out of it. So it's really amazing how this one book, and I must say, like whenever I get a book, a hardcover book again, I'm not intimidated, but I just I get into this, okay, let me see what I can read. But like I said, as soon as I started reading this, it kept me going. Like it kept my mind running to say, wow. I sent it to my business partners. I'm like, listen, guys, look at this. Just one of the parts, I think it was speaking about in page 59 around planning can change, and just in itself, the whole planning chapter as well. And I just thought to myself, my goodness, like, again, I'm a project manager and I felt like I don't know how to plan just by reading that. So it was really amazing. It was amazing. Machaji, I saw your video on. I think you wanted to say something earlier on. What are your thoughts on it, on the book?
Okay. Since I'm pushed to speak, I will. I just got excited. To be honest, I've never read the book, but I feel it was not a mistake that I joined this webinar, because especially where you share the spiritual part of the journey. I think there's a lot of people who probably have had their efforts frustrated in business, not understanding what's going on. And these type of stories are not easily shared, because I mean, people will give you a funny look if you do that. But I'm glad to realize that some of us who have experienced those type of contentions in business can be able, to read this book and be comforted to say, we still have victory, and we are not mad. It's not unique to us. These type of things happen. And I really just want to commend you for your courage, because like Shama said, it's not easy to talk about these things in the marketplace or in the business space. So thank you for that.
Thank you so much.
Sbongile, do you want to also, or Sbongisiwe? I don't know if you want to say something. I guess not. Busiwe, do you have any comments as well? Sorry for putting you guys on the spot.
Mina, I always say, I'm just here, I'm quiet, I'm listening, but I was Dineo. She's one mentor I prayed for. I was praying to God. I remember when I started my coaching journey, I looked for someone who carried the same belief system, the same values, and I could not find anyone, and I was frustrated. And I'm just listening to her because everything that she's saying, I'm there right now. Like, I'm like, you know what? I'm just waiting for this session to finish. I'm gonna order my book because she's literally speaking to me. It's like she can see through me, and I'm so grateful. Like, I'm even teary because with Dineo, for me, my relationship with her, I feel it's a divine. It's more than just mentor business. No, there's more to it, and I'm grateful to God. And Nje, I'm ordering my book tonight. Thank you.
Oh, thanks, Busi.
Thank you, Z. Spongi. Sine. Yo, yeah.
Sibongiseni. Hi, kunjani?
Oh, Sbongiseni is
Hello.
here. Wow.
Yes, how are you?
Hey, I'm good. How are you?
I'm
What a
good,
pleasant surprise.
Do you want to switch on your camera?
Yes, let me switch on my camera. Okay, how are you?
I'm well. How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm so happy for you, Sister Dineo. After that 2 weeks that you have together, now you're just inspiring me here. I'm so proud with you. And you know what? I'm going for like you with your encourage, and I'm waiting for my copy. I'm waiting for my copy.
You'll definitely get it.
Please, please. The hoster, my name is Bosch. If you fail to pronounce Sbongisen, just say Bosch.
Sbongiseni. I know how to say Sbongiseni. Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. That's all I want to say to you, Sister Dini. You are a good mentor to us, and here in Tembisa just came and you have planted a seed. I'm so proud with you, the way you do things, especially on youth. I'm so happy because most of the mentors, they focus on ladies only. They forget about the gentlemen and elder people. They just focus on women, forgetting that men, they also have those what you call the dream, the bigger dream. So you just focus on both youth and elders. I'm so happy for you. And other thing, don't fail us. And I want that spirit that you have there, what you left us here in Tembisa. You're such a good person, and you know what you are doing. the seed that you have planted, I'm definitely sure some of us, we have taken it. Although that you will saw us we're like playing, but we have put it on mind. If we can check on a group that we are discussing all that you have taught us, I'm so happy for you. Thank you, sister. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Lucy. I want to say one thing, and you actually just reminded me, and everybody has been in as they've been saying one thing, and it ties on with the vision part as well, going back to the beginning as we're speaking. But I remember at work, our CEO or ex-CEO, he used to do something very powerful for me. Like when I got there, I did not imagine I'd ever see anyone going into a place and they can speak about their faith like that. But it would be like in a whole, the whole company would be around. It would be like a company meeting, and the CEO would stand up, or will speak, everyone would speak, and at the end he will tell his testimony and how God has helped him. And it's as a lot of people had said now, how you put your faith first in everything that you do, and it is something that I've also seen, and we should be able to do it more and more, to say that this does not belong to me. This, as you said, all the glory to God. It's amazing how you represent your beliefs and your faith in everything you do. So it's actually even more inspiring, as the people have been saying, and it's amazing how you talk about it and how you live it out as well. Is there anyone else that has a question or final comments for Dineo? Okay, I think everybody has said. Yes, Doc.
Yeah, I mean, I'm quite inspired by Dineo. I remember when I met her for the first time, she was like, I want to leave corporate. I want to do this entrepreneurship thing. Can we meet? What's happening there? You know, it's quite amazing from that conversation when we met at Going Peace somewhere in town, and looking at where you are now, it's quite an amazing journey, and I'm so proud of you. I'm really, really, really proud. I can trust you with my brand. I can trust you with my platform. And I know that you will deliver. You'll never disappoint. And there's more to come. But thank you so much for the work that you do, for the books that you're writing, and the books that are still yet to come. How many do you still have? 70 months?
74.
Oh my God!
74.
Don't remind me.
So there's 74 books to go. So I'm gonna read all of them. So we are looking forward to them. But thank you so much, and keep on doing amazing work. You matter quite a lot. The work that you do matters quite a lot. And never get tired. It's important. We are watching, we are inspired, and keep up the good work. So thank you so much. That's me.
Oh, thank you so much, Dr. Roche. What's your with Dr. Roche?
Oh goodness. I think again, a lot of people have said a lot of things, and I think we all just mean exactly what we say. We do not take for granted the fact that we are able to talk to you as the author, and we want to thank you all as the book club for coming and representing your book and yourself with just the joy that you bring with it, and yeah, I think we'll be reviewing your second book, your fifth book or fourth book, is it? Yes, your fourth book. Maybe you want to tell us when that would be. We don't want to put any pressure, but
it's so unpredictable. You see, the other one 2 weeks, the other one 8 weeks. So let's see how this one unfolds.
There we go. Okay, no, that's cool. Wendy also says, I want to say personally, you have touched a lot of us at Tembisa. We appreciate you and keep up the good work.
Oh, Wendy, thank you so much.
Yeah. So thank you very much for everyone that has attended this session. It really was a brilliant session. I think for those that hasn't seen it, you will be able to get it on Facebook and on YouTube, and you can get the book. You can order from Dr. Rosh. I got mine from Dr. Rosh, but you can order from Dr. Rosh. And where else can we get the book, Wendy? Not Wendy, Dineo.
Yes, so people can email hello@dineomolokoane.com, or they can inbox me. I'm very active on social media. Those who are following me, Dineo Molokoane, so you can just hit me up and then I will sort you out.
Great. You all, Sibongisi, are you still have your hand up, or is it just the first hand that you had before? I think it might be the hand before, but thank you very much, Dineo. It was a pleasure meeting you, and I hope to actually meet you in person sometime. I think there's a lot of questions that probably I still have that maybe you can talk to. Thank you very much as well for everyone that came into the session, and have a great rest of the evening, and see you at the next book session. We will confirm the book in due time.
The next session is on we'll confirm the book, but the next session is on the 17th of November. 17th of November, yes. Thank
See you on the 17th.
Cheers,
Machachi,
guys.
I see your hand is up.
Yeah, sorry. On which page, on which Facebook page was this live stream? I want people to watch this. I have to share it.
On the Lora Center.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Enjoy the rest of the evening, everyone.
Cheers.
Thank you so much.
Cheers. Thanks.
Thank you.